So, all right. Yeah, so just the questions are not like more like they're not to kill you, just to help to get understanding of some of those the rubrics that they have here and what you're supposed to know. So the very first one I have for you is can you walk me through your academic journey and explain how it led you to applying for AMET?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So my name is Otaige, like I said earlier, and I studied mechanical engineering from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. So during my undergraduate study, I had some prerequisite knowledge concerning material characterizations for different materials, both metals and coash materials for energy generation. So I was able to work as a research assistant to understand these different techniques. So upon my graduation, I was also privileged to work on coash, um, which serve as the byproduct of coal for electricity generation. So I realized that after burning coal, you can transition from the coal to coal ash and the reutilization of coal ash for another purpose, thereby creating circular economy of the coal ash. So after this research, I was able to discover that I have a passion for working on material and combining it with energy together so we can power the world.
Okay. Which parts of your academic background are most relevant to AMET and why?
Thank you, sir. My academic background so far has been built on material characterization techniques. So far, I understand the principle of operation because I've been able to use these particular machines such as scanning electron microscopy, AGS spectroscopy, transmission electron spectroscopy, FTIR, Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy. So I'll be able to work on these particular materials. And when I was still in secondary school, I carried out the renewable energy project, which was recognized by then Governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Raji Fashola. So they altogether positioned me in this particular field of AMET to apply energy materials using material characterization techniques to see how we can create energy storage for Nigeria economy.
Okay. The third question I have for you is what specific research problems in material or energy genuinely interest you?
Thank you, sir. I'm particularly interested about battery chemistry because if you look at the world, for example, and Nigeria in particular, the renewable energy technologies are not always available. They are intermittent. For example, the solar energy is not always available every time. And as a result, we have imbalance of energy supply. For example, the World Bank suggests that estimated that over 85 million Nigerians have no access to electricity. So, but if you use battery, which serve as energy storage, you can balance demand and supply of energy. So my research is about energy. For example, lithium sulfur batteries to trap this energy and store them. But yet, these lithium ion batteries and sulfur batteries, they have some challenges such as the cathode kinetics, the anode interface, and I'm actually building my research there to work on this to make it solve some net zero emission challenges.
Okay, so
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Okay, can you tell me about a time you explored beyond topic what was required in class? Can you tell me about a time you explored beyond the topic that was required in class?
Okay. So in class, when I was still an undergraduate, I explored corrosion analysis of metals, for example, and we noticed that metal is a raw material which is used in the oil and gas in energy industry, and they also face challenges of degradation. So I went further to
Did
study
you
these metals using
wait?
different material
Did you
correction
hear
techniques,
the
which are not
wait?
transferable knowledge in my AMET application. And I was able to publish this publication in some national conferences and currently under review in the journal.
I can't understand that. I don't think you got the question.
Yeah, I wanted to confirm if he actually he said something outside the classroom. What not academic thing, probably. I mean, well, is
Yeah, I
it
mean, like it could be in club, but then something beyond what was required of you,
okay?
In
Publication, okay.
academics, right?
whether in academics or anything. But then something that was beyond, like when you come to a class, there are some expectations that you're supposed to meet. But then that's not like you going above and beyond of that
Okay,
expectation.
okay, thanks. So in my academics, I went above the norms to study the characterization of different uh, spectroscopy to understand who ash, which was my focus of research work. For example, previous research has stopped at using only SEM and EGSM spectroscopy to characterize coal ash byproducts after combustion. But I went further to use FTIR and apply ash fission temperature to study the behavior of the combustion analysis of coal ash. And this work currently has also been presented at one of the leading African institutions of energy storage in Nigeria.
Okay,
Did you
yeah,
polish?
I'll just be going through. At the end of the day, I'll give you my own reviews. So, I mean, other person will still give you that. Please let us just take note of the points, each question I asked him, and then what he was supposed to say and how he was supposed to go about it. So now the next question I have for you is if Ahmed didn't exist, what kind of research would you still want to pursue?
Thank you, sir. If AMET did not exist, I will still pursue um, research work related to energy storage because of the built-in passion that I have for batteries, which I believe that is the building block of renewable energy transition. So I would rather apply to other schools, which I've also done, like studying MSc in energy system at Edinburgh and Oxford. So my passion has moved me to explore other options to apart from AMET that is also related to energy, renewable energy transition.
Okay, I'm heading into your research method and critical thinking part. So, and the first question I have for you there, how would you decide whether a research result is reliable?
Thank you, sir. My my research results was reliable based on the scope and methodology I applied in carrying out the research. I ensured not to rely on just only one material characterization techniques. I used series of characterizations to verify my answers. For example, the FTIR techniques, the Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, and the S3 fluorescence spectroscopy, they both revealed that the coal ash for this energy transition contained silicon dioxide and aluminum silicate. And apart from that, I ensured to carry out the sample using the ASTM, the American Standard Testing Material for the sample. And the fact that the coal ash were derived from different coal mine centers in Enugu State, they all agreed that they contain thermal stability using the AFT method. And they also contain the silicon dioxide present, revealing slagging property of coal ash in all the three samples.
Okay, describe a situation where data might look convincing but still be misleading.
Sorry, class. Can you come again, sir?
So describe a situation where data might look convincing but still be misleading.
Are you there? Can you hear him?
Sorry, sir, I can't hear you, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can come again, sir.
Okay, I said can you describe a situation where data might look convincing but still be misleading?
Okay.
Where a data can look uh, convincing, but it is still a misleading data. Where a data looks correct, if you
Okay,
look at
data.
it from the surface of what it is, it looks very correct. But in the actual sense, when you look at it deeply, you find out that there are some challenges with such data.
Thank you very much. Sir. Sometimes in research work, data might not be correct based on the scientist or the engineer involved not taking record of research documentation, or
Did you get my
maybe
question? Hold on first. I didn't say the data is not correct. The
okay,
data looks correct, right? Looks
yes, sir.
convincing, but then it's misleading.
Okay, so you're asking that what am I going to do in that case, right?
I said describe a situation. Like
Okay,
let's
okay.
assume you're
A
working.
scenario.
Let's assume you're working. Let's assume you're working on a people are working as a group in a group on a research, and then you find the data of that research. You say, "Oh, this data looks convincing, but then it's still misleading." You're able to like what kind of situation would you see that will warrant you to make kind of those? This is more like test of critical judgment.
So I'm not really getting your question.
Is someone able to
Okay.
explain to him better so that maybe
Okay.
it's the way I'm putting it?
Okay. Okay. I don't know. Okay, Isabel, can you explain to him?
I'm just going to use maybe my research, for instance. So I'm a cancer biologist, and there are some, let's say, proteins that you know that ordinarily in the body, you should find them in lower concentrations or lower expression levels. And for some reason, it's looking, it, so you see something that you expect to be normal, but then it's not normal. So it's convincing, but then that if you take it as it is, it's misleading. So the natural thing to do would be to just work with it because that's what you know is the case. But if you do that, then you create a problem as you go down. That's the only way I can explain it. So what you see looks real, but it's not real, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Like you are saying, okay, maybe if you don't get her point, maybe I can explain further. You are seeing like a published, let's say a published article where there is a graph, and in that graph, if you look at that graph, everything looks nice, everything looks good. But when you study the graph, you study it, you will find out that there are some misleading figures that did not actually represent what the graph was trying to say. So the question he's trying to ask you now is, when you meet such a situation, how will you tackle it? This kind of thing
Okay,
came, this kind of thing came when I was doing my master's. I mean, there was one of the assignments that were given to us then, and we were given lots of publications, and we were told to find out challenges with the analysis here. So we were told to review those. It is already a published article that is on it's even a peer review article. But eventually we found out that there are some. So that was even when I knew that most of the publications out there has a lot of misleading data. So in a situation like that, what will you do? That is the question he's trying to ask you.
okay. If I get a case study of research work and I see that some of the established figures and image are not correct, so I can probe that study further by writing a review paper concerning that to give the update of the new paper, still using letting still ensuring that it is reproducible by ensuring that I just make it as a review using the same techniques to verify the images or the generated results from the research.
Okay, that's okay. I have another question for you. The question is, how would you criticize a paper that supports your own hypothesis?
So how am I going to what now?
How will you criticize? How will you critique a paper? How will you critique a paper that supports your own hypothesis?
Okay, I'm going to criticize the paper that supports my hypothesis based on the methodology, the steps that they take to carry out the research and the significance of the work. So, and look at the limitations of their particular work. Then I'm able to criticize the similarity between my work with it.
Okay, so you mentioned that you have a paper that is in what's it called in peer reviews. How many publications do you have, if I may ask?
Okay. Currently, I have up to 7 papers under review, and I think last week I published a paper.
7 papers under review. Like so when did you finish? When did you graduate?
I graduated last year
Last year. Is it from masters or BSc?
under MBS bachelor.
BSc. Can you tell me how you're able to get those 7 papers?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The thing is, when I was in my final year, I started using LinkedIn, and as a result, I reached out to a lot of professors on LinkedIn in material science and mechanical engineering. So I helped them to work on some of their uncompleted projects, and I also work with my supervisor. We also put me in charge of some projects. So that's how I got to work as a paper.
So can you tell me your contribution to some of those papers you worked on?
What I contributed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I've worked on numerous papers. For example, I've worked on paper involving a novel study of AIDS treatment of on steel, because most of the after eating them to some certain temperature in the furnace, it just quench them fast. But I was able to work on cyclic quenching of steel by intercooling them to a certain temperature before finally quenching and for application. And this was able to improve the lifespan of the material after being used in a particular application. And I've also worked on a paper to improve circular economy, like plastic packaging recycling. And this paper has contributed to sustainable development of reusing plastic material by redesigning their properties to
Did you
another
get did,
application.
did you get my question? I said, what was
I
your
thought you'd ask about my
contribution? I said, what was your contribution to those papers? I didn't say the paper you've worked on what it's meant to do.
okay. Like I contributed in most of the times I contributed to organizing the references using Zotero, and sometimes I also contributed to image resolutions using image J to to get the best resolutions for the images. And sometimes I also engage in review and corrections to ensure that we align with what is visible in papers to establish journals.
Okay, so the professors you reached out to on LinkedIn, what kind of work did they assign you to do in the first place? Can
Some
you
of the
just cite
time,
one of the papers? Can you just cite one of the works you did with a professor you connected with on LinkedIn and what you did precisely in that paper?
okay, I connected with the Professor Adeki on coash structural analysis. So my aim there was to prepare the samples and look at the elemental composition of the sample, the test to run the samples using different spectroscopy. So I was in charge of the data computation of what's the analysis. And
1 second, please. 1 second, please. Where is this professor located?
he's a Nigerian professor, but he's a
Yeah,
well-recognized
which school?
professor. And
Which school?
from Nile University of Abuja.
Yeah, where did you school?
He's good in he's good in Abuja, like he's a
I
professor
mean,
in
you,
Abuja.
where did you school? Where did you school?
Well, I schooled in FUNAB, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta.
Okay, and then you did part of the research on the it's on the sample collection or whatever. Like, what did you say you did for that particular project?
So I carried out the sampling analysis of the project of the material, coash material.
Okay,
I was
one
the one
second.
in charge of.
How did you get the samples?
Okay, we use open mining techniques. We went to coal mines, a sub-indigenous coal mine center in Erunugu. So in three spots, we're able to extract the samples, then we take it to the lab for analysis.
So which lab did you use to do the analysis? Which lab did you do that? Which lab did you do the analysis?
We did the analysis in Nile Abuja University lab. So using the
Another university
specific,
lab.
yes.
Okay, so where do you reside?
I started in Lagos.
In Lagos. So who funded your trip, and then how long did this research last? Like how what's the duration of this research you did?
The research lasted for like 4 months, a semester. So it is a combination of research between me personally and some professors involved and some students. So we work together to ensure we carry out the research successfully.
Okay. So do you know where I'm driving at this question I'm asking you now?
Also,
So you and I know that I'm a Nigerian and we know how research works in Nigeria.
we manipulate with that.
So, but then you tell me that you collaborated with someone in Abuja and then you are in Lagos. Then were you an active student then, or had you graduated already?
I recently graduated.
So then how were you able to follow up on that research and do your own projects and doing that
Uh,
particular research that you went to Abuja to do, you went to Abuja to do?
no, I recently graduated, so I was done with my undergraduate project on pollution. Then I focused on that one.
That's what I'm saying. When you recently graduated and then you travel from where you schooled in Funab to
Yes, sir.
Abuja to go and do the research.
Yes, sir. Meet you, sir.
So now it's a very simple thing because you and I know that that is not true. Like you didn't travel from Lagos to Abuja to go and do the research, to go and do the actual research.
So,
Because
sir,
no
what I'm
Nigerian
what
professor,
I said is that
no, you said that you participated that, and then I asked you where the research took place. You said it's in Abuja,
yes, yes, yes.
which is one, which is
Like
which one,
the sample. Hello, sir.
yeah, which is something like the sample, even the sample collection and everything. If you tell me you collected sample and sent to them in Abuja, it will be a different thing altogether. But then say that you,
The
you process
sampling
the
was done.
sample, the sample was gotten where?
Like the sampling after the samples was gotten, they were characterized in Abuja machines, like in this university in Abuja.
Mhm. So they were characterized there, but then you were in Lagos. Were you the one that went to Abuja to characterize them yourself?
I was not the one that went to Abuja to characterize myself, but I was part of the research team.
No, no, that's what I'm telling you. Like I asked you your contribution on that research. So you were telling me that's why I asked you, okay, who financed your trip to Abuja? These professors that you'll be meeting will not ask you these detailed questions, but they will get what they are getting, they will get the answer they need from the question they will ask you. Now, you have to understand that doing literature review alone for a particular paper is a big job. Doing literature review alone for a particular research, it's a big job. It's not until you say that you were the one that you did part of the sample, no, that's not only when you contribute to a research. I just have to pick in from this point because I was supposed to ask you all the questions before I come back, but I might mix it. But doing literature search alone, then you telling someone that you have 7 papers under review as an undergrad, bro. I understand Nigerian kind of research how it works, but never make sure you have 7 papers because we have 7 papers in 1 year. Like how? Even me that have
It's
been doing
possible, sir.
even me that have been doing PhD since 2023, I've not even published one. I'm still working on
It's
getting.
possible.
I'm just finalizing one paper now to help my guy to review so we can send it out for publication. So to get a paper out is very rigorous. Telling people that you have so much number of papers will not qualify you for a particular scholarship. But is the input, is the quality of whatever you are putting out. See, you started off so well with the first set of questions I asked you, but when it got to this point of research methodology and everything, now you're trying to mix things up. So if someone asks you how many papers, let's say you have this paper, like it's good to have 3 papers, and then fine and good. I understand that you can come out with maybe one pop is if you told me you collaborated with someone in your school, it's much easier and much better because you are in the same circle, you are in the same vicinity. It's possible someone can a professor can tell you, okay, please, this is my lab, help my students to do this because you're in final year, because you know about it and you contribute to that research. I understand that interdisciplinary research, like doing research with other people in other schools, it's very unique and very nice, but you still have to be very conscious of how you put it out and on the details of what you did. I don't know if you get, I don't know if you're getting me clear.
I get it.
You know, so because I was in your shoes, bro. I was in Nigeria. I know how many papers I had when I was in Nigeria because I was working as a graduate assistant. Even that one too, I contributed because most of the time I was the one guiding the undergraduate students. Then once they are done, the guy will put my name because I helped supervise the students. But that's something like only doing literature review alone is a big job. If you tell me, okay, that the work you had with the professor in Abuja, that you were part of people that did the literature search and then wrote part of the literature review or the introduction, then like I will get that perfectly. But telling me you did the research, you don't know who might be one of the professors that will interview, might be a Nigerian or someone that finished from Nigeria that understand what the Nigerian system looks like. That's why I asked you when did if you told me okay, you graduated last year and you've had 1 year of wait, you can say, okay, within this 1 year, you were doing an internship in that place. That's a different thing altogether. I don't know if you're getting my view.
Yes, sir.
If you had
It's
told
already
me
a
that
1 year
okay, during your
program, sir.
if you had told me that during your IT during your IT that was when you contributed in that research, that would be a different thing. It's possible you contributed in that research during your IT and then it's just been published now. It's understandable. You get.
I think he
Yes.
was trying to
So
say something.
yeah.
Mr. Nacho, I think you were trying to say something.
No, I wanted to say that like it's already like over a year now that I graduated. Like I did my convocation in January last year. So I graduated November 2024, but I did my graduation over a year now in January.
Yeah, but now you told us you graduated recently.
Yes, like I did it like my final convocation in January last year.
No, let's leave convocation. Sometimes you can graduate this year. My school holds convocation every 2 years, my undergrad. So it's not about convocation. When did you leave school? Like submitted your dissertation?
Okay.
When did you
That was
sub
2014 November.
2024?
Yes, 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 November 20.
It's important you clarify these things because, like Mr. Prince said, they're not going to be very particular about these things, but they'll get the answers they're looking for. And let me just tell you, as some my colleagues have gone through this, and I'm here because I'm in a UK university, and I can tell you that the mentality of professors is completely different to that of the US. So they're not expecting you to have lots of publications. I can tell you that for certain. And that's because they know what the research interests and research culture around Nigeria and Africa looks like. So if you come out and say you've got these number of publications, you, like Mr. Prince said, you might be putting
You
yourself
may be
into some
putting
kind of
yourself
trouble.
into, yeah, you might be
Yeah,
putting yourself
yeah,
on the spot.
yes, exactly. Because again, I understand why you're putting this pressure on yourself. We've all been through this, but don't put yourself under too much pressure so you don't
Yeah,
shoot yourself in the leg. Yeah. It's not because like he said, doing a publication requires a lot of work and
exactly.
people would raise brows if you just say you've dished out this much, because then we begin to question we begin to question the reliability of the data, the journals you're sending to, are they predatory journals, and all those sort of, so you don't want to be in that position. So yeah, trust me, Prince means well for you.
Yeah, so the thing is this, if I thought you had told me, oh, when I graduated in 2024, then I followed up with what's it called? I'm trying to like um with in a collaboration I met with someone on LinkedIn or something like that. Then I contributed in their research on so time. Like I will ask you these questions. Okay, when I ask you what is your contribution to this research, you just tell me, oh, when I graduated in 2024, after submitting my thesis, while waiting for either NYC or something, I collaborated with a professor I connected with on LinkedIn who is doing this research, and I contributed to this. That means I know that yes, you have time to contribute to it. You get. So, but never
Yes.
tell anyone you have 7 publications under review, bro. Like, if I'm a professor, you tell me that outrightly, I'm not taking you because it tells me a whole lot about data reliability, research ethics, and all what it may be.
Yeah.
You're not talking to Nigerian professors who just do add my name kind of
Yeah.
research.
Then they buy
People here
that,
understand what
that's
research
their way.
is and what it takes.
Yeah.
And that's why since I came to the US, I told everybody, like, people in Nigeria were like, oh, let us add you. And I said, no, don't add my name.
We're together on that.
I said, no, don't add because
I'm no
I,
longer
if
adding names.
I don't need it because even what where you want to publish it will not even make me any good because it's
Yeah.
not going to be a standard journal. So just keep it. So just get that point, and then we'll continue again. Maybe at the end of the day, we'll still do a run through. So can you tell me more about some literature? What's it called? Citation. Is it templates or patterns that you know, like or that you use? Citation app or programs that you use?
Okay. So, like I said, I use my citations from Zotero. So from Zotero, it's possible to select the particular citation, like a APA style or IE style. So from Zotero, we can get the citation pattern depending on specification of the publication journal.
What's the advantage of using Zotero?
So from Zotero is very fast and reliable because you can just input the DOI and we get everything about the paper, the volume, the issue of the paper, the pages, the authors accordingly. And from there, we can also cite and reference it depending on the. It's very systematic, so that's why it's very important.
Okay. So I'll still be heading out to let me just get some other questions I'll ask you. Um so explain a material characterization technique you know and what information it gives.
Thank you. So one of the material tradition I know how to use very well is scanning electron microscope, which I use here in Lagos for my research work. In scanning electron microscope, we place the sample under the sample chamber, and focus beam of electron is incited on the material. And as a result, we're able to get some signals which can help us predict the surface morphology of the sample, fracture defect of the sample. So
What role
that's
do
for
materials
cell
play in
analysis.
solving energy challenges?
So I come again, sir.
What role do materials play in solving energy challenges?
The material is essential in energy challenge because we cannot achieve energy revolution without materials in the pictures. For example, supercapacitors, which store energy, batteries, which store energy, they are all energy materials. So material is like the backbone of energy transition.
Okay. 1 second. I have one question here I'm trying to get through. So how do analytical instruments turn physical signals into useful data? How do
I did
analytical
have the question.
instruments How do analytical instruments turn physical signals into useful data?
Okay. Analytical instruments turn useful signals into turn data into useful signals because, for example, if you look at the case study of a scanning electron microscope, so from the images generated, you can predict the morphology, you can predict area of concentration or defects, and by making some little adjustments, you can also predict the elemental concentration and composition of the sample. So
Can you
you
can
can
you
also
can you run
use
me through
different
can you run me through the principle of scanning electron microscope?
things. So principle of scanning electron microscopy is it consists of a chamber in which we insert the material into this chamber holder, the specimen holder. So we excite some electrons to interact with the material. Upon interacting with the material, it releases some various signals like secondary electron, scattered electron, and catalysis X-ray. And from this theory, we'll be able to get the morphology, the elemental composition using ADS, and we're able to record our results and predict the compositional analysis of the element.
I'm not satisfied with that answer.
Okay.
So where does electrons come into play?
Electrons are used to incite the material. They interact with the specimen under the specimen chamber. So as they interact, that are excited on which are interpreted using the control devices connected. So from the system, we're able to predict the morphology and look at the structure of the material.
What's the difference between optical microscope and scanning electron microscope?
So the optical microscope is to derive the elemental composition, bulk elemental analysis, and it shows the minor and major elements present.
No, what's the difference? What's the difference between the both? Then why do people choose SEM over optical microscopy?
It depends on the application. For example, if you want to get just the internal structure, the internal arrangement of the elements, we use scanning electron microscopy. But if you want to pay more attention to what is happening inside the nucleus of the element in terms of the elemental composition, we use the optical spectroscopy.
So which one among both of them, which one has a shorter wavelength of electrons?
Shorter wave. I don't have the answer to that one.
Okay, so because when you're talking about SEM, you're talking about electrons, and then
Yes.
how does this electron get excited? What brings about the excitation of these electrons?
It's through the coil inside the spectroscopy, the secondary coil.
What's the component of the
So
coil? Now, I'm going into all these details. I'm going into all these
sir,
details because I'm going into all these details.
no,
Because
sir.
if you say, because all you've been saying, you are saying much that someone that has expertise on scanning electron microscopy. That's where most of your techniques, like that's where you kind of what you work most with, right? Now, if I might even ask you a simple question, but to be honest, have you used it yourself? To be honest.
I've used it myself in Unilab. I've used it myself, but it was just once.
Okay. So now, I'm asking because I know that not all universities in Nigeria that does those research will have those techniques. So now it's left on you to go and study it very well. Because I know you've tried to study it, but go and study the principle and why you would choose it over other microscopy. Do you get what I mean? I will tell you the
Yes.
truth. When I was in Nigeria, we brag that we published with. There's one technique we were bragging that we published with. I never saw it for one day, but now I was just reading the principle. We just send our sample to Ibadan. They will bring us results.
Uh,
You
HPLC.
can't place
No, it's not
resistance
like
gauge now.
FTIR.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen it.
So,
Yeah.
so like
I think,
we send our sample to Ibadan, and then they'll just get results for us, and then they will send us materials and method. Then we just push it out there, and then me, I'm not even sure that those in Ibadan are the ones doing it, or they will contract it out. So I understand your situation. You're from Nigeria. We're from Nigeria. We know how it works. But when you talk about a technique that you've been using, and then since you've been making publications with it, please try and go and understand the rudiments of it. So if any, it's better you're just telling me about only SEM and then don't mention about any other techniques. Or you can say, oh, that you just have what's it called preliminary knowledge about this particular technique. Understand? But don't go into like If it's one, SEM, go and study it well. Know why you will prefer it above other techniques. Because if you come to your materials and methods section, that's why, like, okay, let me start running through what I've been asking you before so that we don't waste much of your time. Now,
I have time, sir.
yeah, I know you have time. So now when I asked you a question about how will you know a result is reliable, you said, oh, based on the technique and whatever, whatever, whatever. Now, a reliable result first is a reproducible result. If a result is not reproducible, then it's not reliable. And that's why we have issues today. Someone will publish a paper, and then if you go back to go and redo what the person did, you can never get it, you can never get a result. So first thing, what are the standards you use? You must use a standard. How did you run the standard? So when I ask you a question, let me get that question I asked you. Just 1 second. Let me get the question. Let me start. I will. Okay, I ask you, how would you decide whether a research result is reliable? Now, if someone asks me that question, I will start first. Oh, a reliable result, one is a reproducible result. That's the first point. Then two, before I carry out my research, I run my standards first. Because running your standards and getting the same standard results tells you that whatever thing you got from your own results should be reliable. I don't know if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So if you don't have, like now, I run what they call fluorescent microscopies. What's it called? They call it PIHCS, post interleave excitation. Now I use, don't be carried away with the big name. It's just fluorescent microscopy that is post at interleave per time. So what do I do? Before I run my sample, I run a control. We have a control data. Now, if I run my control data, then I have a range of value I should get that will tell me, okay, yes, that my machine is aligned in the first place. Because I'll do my alignment. So if I do the alignment finish, I'm not getting that same data, then that means I cannot go ahead to carry out my own experiment because whatever result I will get from that experiment will never be reliable because I'm not getting the true result I should get from the machine. So when someone asks, okay, because when you understand about research reliability, one, you have to understand that you have to have controls for every experiment you do. And how do you decide your control? Your control should be already verifiable facts that people have already published at some point. Not one person, not one, not two, not three. If you don't have a personalized control that you can use, you can say, okay, Mr. A published this thing about this result. Mr. B got the same result. Mr. C got the same result. Mr. D got the same result on different high impact publications. Then you can use that as your control because if you're able to get the same thing, that means you're on the same path. Your machine is giving you the same results. They can now test your own samples. Then I like the part you mentioned that you use different techniques. That's one good thing about research reliability. Publish in places like Nature, Science, PNAS, they want to see that you've used at least 3 or 4 techniques to arrive at the same point. So that's a very sound one from you. But then now, amongst all your papers, there is the research you are publishing. How many of them has more than one technique?
Uh, I've always applied that strategy to use more than one technique, at least
Okay,
6
like
techniques,
which of the
to
techniques do
verify
you
my
use?
work very. Scanning electron microscopy, AGS, SROF, and FPIR.
What is SDM? You have to mention the full name. Some person might not know what the full name, what the full meaning of some of the things you mentioned.
So FPIR stands for Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, and it
Mhm.
involves measuring how the material absorb infrared radiation when it's under the instrument. So we can predict the emittance of radiation by measuring the wavelength.
Okay, now you see that this particular question now understand this in this your B in this your grading rubrics, the B part that says research methodology and critical thinking. If they ask you, can you explain to us more about research reliability? On it. You see, there are some questions you use to kill you sell yourself. Why there are some that you might not do excellently well. Now tell them about what's it called? Tell them about result reproducibility. because any research that is not reproducible is not reliable.
Mm.
Then to tell them about the techniques you have applied in your research, in your publication that are under review. That tells them that yes, you have practicalized this thing. You get. Then I also love the question
Yes.
the what's it called? What's it called? When I asked you about how you criticize a research that is supporting your hypothesis. I love your response. They we talked about going to like understanding the person's research methodology and what they used to arrive at the same point. That's a very good one because different methodologies can give you different results. But then you have okay, now why now the question is why is your own methodology more important or more preferred than the person's methodology? Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
Why
Are
is
you asking
that
a
one
question?
more? I didn't ask you a question. I'm just telling you what you should like. The question should be asking yourself. Why is my
Okay,
research
sir.
methodology of more importance? I mean, like, more acceptable than the person's methodology?
Okay, sir.
That will not tell
Okay.
you, okay, whether even if the person arrive at the same hypothesis, are you criticizing it or not? And that is what will give you issue. That will give you question to what's it called? Your research questions. What are the questions you're trying to answer in a research? So I didn't even ask you this question. How do you go about your literature review? I didn't even ask you about that question. How do you go about your literature search?
Okay, sir. Well, I ensure to focus more on.
Sorry. What influenced your choice of research? Let me not go into how, like, what influenced your topic of research?
Okay, what influenced my research papers, the sample research papers submitted to this is because of the impact of coal after electricity generation. Because American Coal Ash Association said that coal ash is like the largest energy source of exit, and every year 79 million tons of coal ash is deposited after burning coal. So, and this coal ash contains trace elements which can affect the living condition of man. So instead of just keeping them after depositing them for electricity generation, my work involves studying this coal ash. And what makes this work unique is that no research papers so far have studied coal ash, structural analysis of coal ash, and chemical structural analysis of coal ash.
One second, bro. One second, bro. Never use that statement. No research paper have because you have not studied all research papers.
in the
You can
whole
say
world.
limited information.
Okay,
Hmm? Don't
yes,
use
sir.
that statement. No research paper because at this point now, how many journals do you have access to? Can you access top ranking journals from Nigeria? Most times, no. Some science, nature, peanut, you cannot access them because you don't have subscription. So what? How did you come to the finalization that no research paper? Even we in the US,
Okay,
even with the access they've given us to different database, Maga will always tell you to say, oh, limited information about this particular thing exists. So never say no research paper because you're not the one, you're not the database of Google Scholar. Do you get my point?
yes,
And
sir.
then when I
Yes,
asked you about what motivates your research, probably you don't need to go into all those details of American coash, this, that. Yes, because remember you have just how many minutes for this space for this? I think it's like 25 minutes or so. I don't know
I think
for this
yes,
interview.
I think they said 30 minutes on that.
So that'll be like all the questions you will answer. So you don't have time to start going to tell them about more American coash. No, it's a simple thing. Limited information, or there is limited to no information about this particular thing, and then tell us why you are doing it. Is it because of your own methodology? Is it because of the approach you're using? As simple as that. Don't go into it's because of coal mining, this, that. All of us know yes, you're working on coal, but then let us know what is the main thing that is driving your what's it called? Your research. If you ask me now, what is driving my research, my PhD research? In 2 or 3 lines, I will explain to you. I don't know if you get what I mean.
I got you.
So don't go into like, I know you have a lot to say, but try to limit it to one, what is information at hand? What are you trying to bring to the table? And then how would what you're bringing to the table resolve the issue? And these things should not cross one line each. I don't mean one long line, short lines. So
Okay.
another question I asked you, you didn't explain to us what AMET is. When I asked you the question that has to do with alignment with ANET program, how your is it your research interest or your program aligns with AMET? You should tell us first, okay, AMET is this, and my research interest is this. Okay, what is AMET's what is AMET's goal? What's their goal? So the AMET's goal should align with your own goal. I don't know if you get that question about
Yes.
alignment with AMET program. AMET program should align with your goal. And tell us what AMET program, their goal is, or what their mission is in a summarized form, not reading it for us on the website. They not tell us, okay, what are you doing? How does your research interest align with that AMET goal? Based on the current research you've been doing already and what you intend to do in the future. Okay. So
Yes.
you need to and how you're I've talked about the standard about in terms of methodology, and then about the Zotero and all of those things. When I asked you about why do you use Zotero, it's not just about putting the DOI and it gives you the no. It helps you to eliminate redundancy so that you don't make mistake in citing a paper. You don't if you cite a paper, you won't like if you delete a word, if you delete a reference in test. Sometimes people will delete a reference in test, but using this kind of automated version, once you
Yes.
delete, once you refresh, they get deleted under. I don't know if you get. Then some
I get
persons
that.
too, they make mistake and forgetting to cite a paper they've already written. But if you have this kind of thing that once you write, it automatically cites it for you and then reference it for you. That way you're not missing anything. So it's not just about putting the DO and then it gives you the paper and whatever you mentioned there. So now about what I asked about the one beyond the class. Now, beyond the class, I love the fact you came up with publication. So make it understand, make it known to us that that it's not it's not mandatory that you must get a publication finishing another graduate in Nigeria. Make it like okay, this because this is something beyond your class scope. But then you are going into making a publication. Learning how to write research paper, it's a big thing beyond undergraduate class scope in Nigeria.
Mhm.
Make it as a big deal. Like you don't need to start looking for something to think about. It could be something within your reach, and you're already there. You already have it. Oh, something beyond your skills. Okay. First, in Nigeria, undergraduates are not mandated to make a publication. But I went beyond my reach when I was at the point of graduation. I reached out to my professor and then to work to guide me on how to write a paper out of my dissertation. And I'm proud to say that this paper has been written and then is under review or whatever it is. That's beyond your class scope.
Noted.
I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
It makes sense.
Um, I've talked about your contributions. Like I said before, your contribution to research could be only research or review. You must not be the one to do all the research. It could even be paper formatting, only to format to journal article
Yeah.
standard. Somebody will write paper finish, and then they want to submit it as okay. This journal wants us to format this paper in this way. Your job could be to format the paper. That's a contribution. So if you can tell me, okay, yes, it's just only your research, the one you did in your undergrad that you say, yes, I have full ownership over, that's fine. Like it's perfectly okay. Then your contribution could be okay. Do you know what why I was asking you those? I was thinking maybe you were doing what's it called? All this online, what they call this online research people do now. What do they call it? Um Theoretical research. You people should help me now. People that do molecular doctrine and all of this, computational.
Okay, okay,
So I
okay.
was thinking your research is computational. If it's computational, then you can work from anywhere. You don't need to be in the same school, in the same location with the professor. So now, if you are so much proficient with image J, you can tell me, that when they took the data, they sent you the data, that you did the image J part analysis. I don't know if I'm getting my concept on your contribution to research.
I get that.
Now, it could be part of result interpretation. You could be part of what's it called? You could be part of literature search. You could be part of formatting. Once it has to do with taking results from the lab and you're not close, you're not by. I don't know how you're able to do that. So then those are my few questions. Structure and coherence. I didn't ask you questions about ability to explain complex ideas and but that would just be it. Have you ever gone to any conference before or make any poster presentation?
Yes, I've presented in a conference before.
And now, so that this is where you want to communication and academic maturity. That's the last part, question number E. Now, this is where you're going to kill it. When they ask you ability to explain complex idea, then explain to them how you're able to present your paper or your poster to someone that's outside your field to understand it. That's explaining complex idea to someone else. Confidence and professionalism. You're able to present a poster. That's already confidence and professionalism. Then clarity of explanation. Let them know that, okay, you're able to explain this thing to people that were not within your field and they understood it very perfectly. That's you having clarity in your explanation, not confusing people with your explanation. I don't know if you get.
I guess.
So try to find a way to. I'm not asking questions on all this area because we're already people in the UK. It's already their midnight and other people too are also having something. But I just want to like tell you things you should note on those regards. So this communication and academic maturity, you should kill it with your presentation and what's it called? In fact, defending your thesis is a very big one here too, because you're convincing your committee that you are good, which is your standard examiner. So I asked you a question about understanding material characterization, like how which material. And I see this question here, knowledge of analytical instrument. I didn't even see it when I was asking you a question about SCM. Knowledge of analytical instruments. So you need to understand the methodology you are using, the technique you are using. It's not just good about knowing them. Often you need to understand it. Like if we miss going to ChatGPT to explain to you one by one, letter by letter, make it explain to you so you understand them very, very well. Because you can't use a technique without having a clear knowledge of how it works. I don't know if you get.
I guess. I guess.
Remember, when you take image J, you are getting data. How do you get it? Are you getting the ROI? Like, how do you get some of the figures that you now plot? Okay, you're not plotting image J image like the data set you took. No. You are getting some data like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever values they, and then you're not come and make plots with them. You get. So this is now where the knowledge of analytical instrument and all of those comes into play. Because and I have friends that do image research. They just take data with microscope. They come to image J, they extrapolate different things. So understand it very well. How do you use your plugins and all of those? It's very important. So now, if they ask you about how to translate your data from what you get from your SEM, you can say, "Oh, right, okay, I use this particular plugin." Tell them what you do and some of the things you do. That will tell them yes that you have hands-on experience. Personalize it. Oh, after taking data with SEM, I go to Imagine and I use this plugin to extrapolate this kind of data and make plots using this and this. I don't know if you get because you want to be sure that okay, all those complex things you are getting is being able to is interpretable by someone that doesn't know anything about. Like if you give Stanley image now, you take from Microsoft, he doesn't know what it means. He can't do anything with it. But if you give Stanley now figure that shows okay a bar chart and this and then make some explanation, the person will understand it more better because you are not explaining complex ideas into things that people within not your field can understand. You get?
Yes.
So the goal of this interview is to understand what you've been doing and then how it applies to the AMET program you're going into. It's not about what you have achieved before now. No. They don't expect you to be like, but they want to understand, does this guy have the zeal? Like, what is it? Where is it currently at? Because even if you get it, they will still train you. Probably in a different machine that you've never used before. So, but the understanding of the machine you're using now tells them, okay, yes, this guy understands what he's doing. And then if we get to train him, he will still understand what we're going to train him about. So I think those are my my small contribution from my own end. Maybe other people can now tell you and then drill you how they feel you need to get things better.
Thank
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, Isabel and Samuel, if you guys have more. You see, Neto, you see why I wanted my Prince to drill you. I know if it were me, I would have been having mercy on you. I mean, but I hope you were able to get something from
you.
this
Yes, sir.
process
Thank you.
so far.
No, let Isabel. Isabel will have some things to tell
Yeah.
because Isabel is in the UK and then it's more of
Yeah,
a UK thing.
Isabel and Samuel, they are both in the UK, so
Well,
they would give you their perspective.
I don't know anything more to add that Mr. Prince has not already said, but I think I'm just going to maybe comment on the part of results reliability. So there's something called FAIR principles, FAIR. You might want to have a look at that. So it's about how your data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and I think the last one is reusable. So if you get asked questions around those sort of things, if you can describe how some research you did falls into those frameworks, it would help them understand that as much as you're in Nigeria, where maybe things are not really working as they should, you do have a global understanding of what research reliability looks like. So I just had to look it up because I know I've seen that somewhere in one of my classes, and Mr. Prince touched on that as well. I think something else I wrote was yes, Prince asked something about what you would do if you don't get into the program. And I think you answered that you've applied to Edinburgh and some other places. That is a great answer, but it's not the best answer. Again, there's no best answer. There are no right answers, but there are definitely wrong answers. So you want to think about other, say, local ways that you can still explore your research interest without necessarily traveling, if that makes sense. So I can tell you that these guys know Japa. They know all of the things people are trying
Yeah.
to do. So you want to front yourself as a candidate who is not so big on traveling as much as you are on getting the skills needed to solve the problems you've pointed out. So what I'm trying to say in essence is look for local ways. I know that the research culture in Nigeria is not great, but I also know that there are researchers in Nigeria who are doing great work, especially in the West. So look at their labs. Even if you've not collaborated with them, the interviewers don't know, but just look for these people, pen down names and say, oh, fine, if I don't get into Ahmed, I'm going to go on to do A, B, C, D. And so they're going to see that it will be their loss if they don't get you on board because you have your life planned out.
Yeah.
So that's just
Noted.
something I wrote out for you to think about. And then something else, be particular about describing a problem. It's easy to just say things and keep them in the air. This happened this way, but if you can describe it using a story, it makes it relatable. If you've had maybe backstage conversation with interviewers, they'll tell you that people who they remember after the interviews are people who told them stories. I was privileged to meet one of the panel members who interviewed me for the program I'm on. And he, I wasn't supposed to meet him, but as fate may have it, my supervisor changed my second supervisor and he then became my second supervisor. And when we went in, there was like, oh, I remember you from the interview and all of that. It felt good, but yeah, I'm just going to leave it. But the point is, try to leave with be that candidate who tells a story. Of course, you don't want to start telling your life, so I imagine you know what I mean here. But yeah, just don't bring it home. Yeah, whatever you're explaining, bring it home. Another thing, focus on your strengths. Mr. Prince touched on that when he said that contributing to research is not always about the hands-on work. I collected the samples, I analyzed them. In our case, one of the strongest things Nigerian students can do is to read because we don't have the labs to go into. Where we have the labs, we don't have the equipment, but then we have access to a laptop, a phone, so you can get lots of research that are free. And thankfully, there's this culture, there's this wave going around now, which is making research as open as possible. So you can access lots of material. I know that there's still journals out there that would not release their papers to you, but there's still so much you can get from just reading free papers. So focus on that. Don't be very particular about these techniques that you don't really know. Believe me, they know that these equipment, some of us don't even have it. I remember a horrible experience of a student who was describing a practical they did with an equipment that currently I think there's only three in the world, and there's somewhere in the US and maybe the UK. And this student was describing this from Nigeria, and the professor was like, I don't think you have this equipment in Nigeria. So how did you do it? So yeah, be careful of those sort of things. Focus on what you have, and you have no idea where it's going to take you. I think I've mentioned the analytical examples, analytical techniques, use examples, and where you haven't, please be honest enough to say you've not used this. You only read about it, and I know if it feels like counterintuitive, but it's better you don't go down the rabbit hole trying to explain something you've not done and just set yourself up for failure than to just say, oh, we don't have this, or maybe someone has it, but we couldn't get in for some reasons. But this is as much as I know. Um, those were the points I noted. But overall, well done.
That's nice. And then too, this your camera is still making us to be looking like this, but it's well. Um, I don't know if Samuel has anything to tell you.
Yeah, well done, guys. This is really, really good. I find it really interesting, the entire conversation as well. Um,
Yeah.
they said a lot. I think the first point, especially that story part, I was like, the entire explanation doesn't fit like, doesn't really give you a proper story about what they want to achieve and all of that. So, especially when you're being asked about your academic journey. So, before you talk about maybe your research, you can maybe hint on maybe a module that you did during your program that gave you that motivation to pursue that area. I don't know if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
because you can't just be interested in things out of the box. So there's always an experience you latch onto to get a particular maybe interest. So maybe it can be a module. You can give how insightful that module was and how it motivated you to go further to read about that area and found out those research questions you were interested in. I don't know if that makes sense. So that shows that you are a really good student and that also um, go beyond what was stated in class and and just give the assessors a proper like view of you or how you think, more like critical thinking as well. Yeah, so it's something I saw that was missing in your academic journey story. Yeah, then I think another thing they've talked a bit about this, the instrumentation part, but I think generally when you ask about your research, one thing they like in the UK is like critical thinking. They always sing it in your ear from start to finish. I remember when I was doing my master's. Yeah. So they don't just want you to say, oh, I use this instrument and these are the steps. So what is the underlying principle for that instrument? They don't need to prompt you. So when they're asking about your research and you're explaining that, they don't necessarily need to prompt you like Prince was doing. So they don't need to prompt you. You need to tell them about the working principles for that method and the merits, as well as even limitation of that method you utilize, and how that method is suitable to answer your research questions. So those are really insightful things you need um, to talk about when you're explaining like your research, to be fair.
Yeah, 1 second too. And why that method is preferred to the ones outside people have already
Yeah,
published with.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And another thing, so if you don't have an answer to a question, don't just leave it like, oh, I can't, I don't have an answer to this. So always uh, tend to like tell them that obviously you're going to find out and how you're going to find out as well. Yeah, because they don't expect you to know everything. I think that's a very welcoming culture in the UK. I've attended several interviews that I don't know some things, but I was able to escape with that. So just let them know that you are interested in learning and how you're going to find out such information. So yeah, so it's something, a point I wanted you to also look at. Then if you're explaining your research, I think one component that I didn't really hear, I don't know if maybe I didn't hear it or you didn't study, but it's about how you do your literature like research. Yeah, literature search and all. So you need to mention specific maybe databases and stuff like that, in which you carry out like your literature search and all of that. So that they know that you know what you're talking about. Um, then generally, Prince has obviously given us like a group of questions for you to answer. But I would say keep the rubrics in mind when answering questions, because they might not necessarily ask you these particular questions. Like, so if they ask you about your academic journey, look at the rubrics. What are they trying to like find? What are they assessing me on? So that you can put those elements when you're explaining. Because I know generally the UK, from my experience with interviews, I know they hardly prompt you. Yeah, they do that just a few times. If they see you are actually going outside the scope, they can then prompt you, and sometimes you lose mark for that, for them prompting you. So always keep the rubric in mind. What are they trying to assess with it? So you can explain those, put in those elements within your explanation. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. Trying to see. Then I don't know if Prince mentioned this, but when you're also checking reliability of your research result, and even in terms of critiquing papers as well. So validation of findings with existing literature is something that's really important as well. I don't know if you mentioned that. And also like confirming with your advisors is also really important, because apart from the fact that they want you to know how to independently do like research, so you need to also have like the collaborative um, skill required to survive in any research group. So how do you collaborate with your fellow team members of fellow students, and also how do you collaborate with your advisor or supervisor, as the case may be? So you also need to put in that element, so it doesn't feel like you are just one lone ranger that knows how to do research, but you can't collaborate with your research group. So I think that's something you need to also look at. Yeah, I think that's all from my end. Thank you.
Yeah, so to just to add to what Samuel just said, where he talked about that they might not prompt you. So when they ask you about your academic background and research motivation now, you see all these criteria here, all these points here are things you want to address with that question. So they might not come to ask you, how does your program align with Ahmed's program? No. I don't know if you can just like going for US interview and they ask you, okay, why are you here today? It's an open-ended question. So when they ask you, okay, can you run us through your academic background and how it aligns with the Ahmed's program? So they want to see you watch all these points because they might not come to ask you these things individually.
Yeah.
So I was asking you individually because we have all the time. So this will not help you to kind of prompt yourself and then come into, like, if possible, have a summarized point for all these things for one question. That way, even when they are done asking you, if they now want to go into individual to get more clarity, if they not ask you, it's not bad repeating the same thing twice. Or maybe touching something twice, it's not bad. But make sure that you are, for each question they ask you, you understand where it falls into. They might not start asking you with academic background. They might ask you starting from literature search and information about literacy. So that might be the first question they will ask you. Oh, can you tell us about how you go about your literature research and how you're able to find about the research gaps? They didn't come with academic background. So you have to be prepared and then understand where the category, where each of the questions fall into before responding to it. And please, you are not mandated to start answering the question as the person just stopped asking, you just pick up immediately. No. Take time to understand the question and then respond accordingly. But taking time to don't go and wait as if someone is trying to tell you something somewhere before you respond. So, like, there is a thin line between those two things. Understand the question and then answer accordingly. But then don't still keep so much time waiting because let them be as if you're going to teach a GPT to get your answer. I don't know if you get. So
Let me just chip in something on that. Feel free to ask them to repeat a question if you don't get it. Because it
that could
is
be your
better
buying
that you
time.
ask than you go ahead to answer something that is not in line. They might not be patient to ask the question again.
So you see, it's about even at that self. If you are trying to understand the question, and even though you've heard the question, you can say, so, oh, please, can you? That way, when they're
You're
asking back again, you're
building
trying
the
to understand where
answers.
it fell into.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
But don't do it with all questions. So they will know that this is a trick with this
yeah,
from
of
this guy.
course. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, Aneto, I
Sir,
believe I believe you have really learned a lot from all this feedback. I mean, and I'm happy that I'm recording it so that probably after now you can still go back to play them. Prepare yourself for it. I mean, uh, my own little, they have said it all. They have said almost everything. It was like, you see how these things work. While they were talking, all of us were jotting things down, and when they were giving you feedback, it's like they are looking at my notes, but none of them have my notes. So, I mean, they have said everything, almost everything that I wrote down in my comments in the feedback I wanted to provide for you. So, but I just want to say generally from the aspect of um, as a HR who have actually conducted interviews, I would come from that angle of some of your facial reactions towards the interview. This one is not about tech because what they have been providing to you is more of technicalities because these guys they're all in science. I think both Prince, Isabel, Samuel, all of them are in science. I'm the only person that is doing qualitative research. I mean, but most of them I think could be doing quantitative research. So so I will speak from the aspect of management aspect of um, interviews. So from my observation, you were too serious. You were too serious with the interview. You need to, in an interview, you need to be a little bit just put a little kind of a smiling face. Make the environment to be not to be too tensed because if you are too serious, there would I mean, they will be too serious with you. So that's one thing. So, but if you make it more of, oh, for instance, I have attended so many interviews. I have conducted and I have also uh, been an interviewee. Let me say I've been an interviewer and an interviewee. So, and in most cases, just like Isabel mentioned, I try to make my interview to be more of storytelling. And just like Isabel mentioned, when we are interviewing the candidates, I remember one of the candidates that we interviewed when I did my internship in one of the local governments here in the US. So I was part of, because I did public administration, and the person is coming from public administration background. They said I should join the interview. So in fact, I was even the least person on that interview. We have the village manager, the top HR manager, and all of that. So, but at the end of the day, they asked me in all the candidates, first, because after the interview, we, the interviewers, I mean, we will sit back. When the candidate leaves the Zoom call, we will still remain on the call to give our feedback on what, how we felt, or what do we think about this candidate, so that the HR will now use those feedback to make uh, her final decision on the candidate to be selected for that position. So one of the things that made me to remember, because we interviewed about, I think, 5 candidates on that day, about 5 or 6 candidates. So one of the things that made me to remember one of them is that the guy was so good at telling stories. Everything you tell him, he will just convert it to story, and the guy was smiling all through. So that was what made me to remember the guy. And fortunately, eventually, the same thing that made me to capture that captured my attention to the guy was almost something that captured all of them their attention, because I was the first person to, because after the interview, I happened to be the first person that the HR called and said, Stanley, what do you think about this candidate? And when I pointed out about that particular guy, all of them agreed with me that this was that they can remember that guy very well. So our attention got to the guy, and eventually the guy had the skills that we needed. And I think he was, because it was just an internship, a 3 months internship position that we were interviewing candidates, and the guy was selected for that position. So storytelling is very, very important in an interview, and making the environment to look friendly. Just make the environment friendly. It makes them to relax. And the professors, they will not. And another thing is that they are not, most of these professors, they are not as serious as you may think that they are. They are not as that serious. I mean, some of them are even ready to crack joke. I mean, so you just need to but don't I'm not saying you should go there and be misbehaving, but just kind of make the environment to be lively and be friendly, so that they can laugh with you and they'll be able to remember you, because you're not the only person that they're going to interview. They're going to interview other candidates on that day, maybe, or even on another day. So you want to make them to remember you. So leave a lasting impression in your interview. Don't be too serious. You too day serious, I beg. Just smile a little bit. So I
And
think
hope
that's
it's not the same
the
place. Hope it's not this place you and I are gonna stay for the interview.
Yes,
uh-huh,
sir.
that's another point I mentioned. I wrote down here. You have to be professional. Your background has to be professional. I mean, it's this place that looks like a prison. Somebody is in the cell at your back. So look for something more professional. I mean, if you can't have a professional background, maybe you can put a professional background on your Zoom or
You can
something
just
like that.
blog his background. You can just
Law,
blog his
yeah.
background and make it
Yeah.
blog. That can,
Uh,
but then just make
uh,
sure you get good, you get enough light to your face, and
mhm.
so that you can always smile, and then your smile will show. So like Stanley was saying, you don't go and not like you'll be so like a stick, and then now show they'll say, ah, this guy is not being serious, but
Uh-huh.
it's one of an interactive. Yeah, they just want to get to know you. Like having
Yeah,
gotten to the interview stage is a big plus. I must tell
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Like
of
having gotten
course.
to interview stage is a big plus. So not everyone will get interview stage. That means they saw something in your application material. So when they're asking questions, also try to remember things you put in your application material as well, because most of them will make a
Mhm.
reference to it. So like either your
Yes.
CV or something, try to make sure that because some people will make reference to your CV. Oh, you say you've done this. Can you tell us more about it? It might not even be all the things you're seeing here in the rubrics, but they just ask you things, but then just be free, smile, respond as much as you can, and then wish you all the best.
Yeah,
And
so
please
that
drop this
is,
sir. Sorry, just drop the sir. I know we're very cultured in Nigeria, but you'll be
yeah.
wowed when you travel and you can call your professor by his first name.
Yeah, I mean that
It's
thing, even up till now,
it's just
I'm still trying to,
yes,
when I came to NIU and I was seeing them calling a whole HOD, calling him Scott,
yeah,
because his name is Scott
yeah,
Robinson. So
yeah,
they were calling him Scott. I mean, in the class, me, I refused to do that. I insisted that even if I'm going to do it, let me just add his dog to it. So I
yeah,
was, if each time I wanted, I would say Dr. Scott.
yeah, yeah.
So, so it is better. You can you should be able to know that because they will, before the interview start, they will introduce themselves to you. So if you want to address them, you can just say doctor. Don't
With your
call
name,
them
don't do
direct.
the
Maybe you can
sir.
just
Yeah.
add their title to it, and it makes them feel better than all those Sir Amma. And you know
Yes.
that uh, there is issue of gender and all of that. Somebody may not want to answer Sir because you are seeing him as a man, but that's not what he's identified as, or you are seeing him as a woman, and that's what. So it's normal. So you have to be a little bit. You have to be very careful with that. So and then I think another thing is I made mention of here. You have to expect real life scenario. I mentioned that when Prince asked you something about when you see a situation where we have a wrong data. How, I mean, where you see a correct data, the data looks correct, but in actual sense, it is not correct. So that thing is more of a practical, it's more of a real life scenario. So you need to, uh, in that case, like I said, expect such real life scenario questions. They can push it to you. In fact, most in the interviews, they always throw you real life stories. I mean, real life scenario. They will always ask you, eh, tell us a situation whereby you have met. They can even change this question by saying, tell us a situation where you have seen a wrong data or you have seen an analysis that looks correct, but in actual sense, they are not correct. So in such a situation, you just have to use a storytelling to, or just know that this is a real life story scenario. Don't go academic in that situation. Don't go too academic or too professional. Be a little bit more distant, and then also show professionalism in telling whatever you're saying. So that is and also try to you are stretching your answers too long. They may not have that. There is a way you will stretch answers and the person become bored of listening to you. So they would ask you a question just straight to the point. You don't need to start giving stories. I mean, it makes the whole situation to be bored. It makes the person to get bored and get tired of you. And the person might just be ready, just let's do and move to the next candidate. So these are the things. And when you are talking about when you are saying something, try to, when, just, I think Prince mentioned that whatever you want to say, make sure that there is a backup. You are backing whatever you're saying up. I mean, you don't just wake up and declare whatever you want to say. Just like you pointed out earlier, saying that no published article on this. I mean, try to avoid such a situation because it is not good. So I think generally these are the points. There are most other points there, but I mean
Yeah,
everybody have
sorry,
mentioned
Stanley,
it.
to cut you off. We'll not finish, like, if we start talking from now, we can talk from now to tomorrow because they are more like open-ended questions. But then
Yeah,
what you just have to bear in mind is research ethics and conduct of research. So when they ask you about, oh, can you tell us when the result is maybe right, maybe it's not convincing, just try to understand what ethics and what research conduct is. So
yeah,
ethics and conduct will tell you that even though it looks convincing, that you're not supposed to push it out. because it doesn't fall to the ethics and whatever it is. So just take your time, take a deep breath, and go over whatever we've discussed now. Learn more, study more, and like I said, you have a very good background. You have a very good you have what it takes to pull this through,
Yeah.
right? So, but like Stanley already said, and then Samuel also mentioned, they might not go into asking you the way I was asking you one for each of them.
Mhm.
It might just be one question for academic background. So that one question should cover everything that is listed on that place. That should be able to, that will give you the point. But that's just like 1 to 5 in each of those. So try as much as possible. You can get this. Like you not like you can. That was the same thing I told this guy you're trying to invite now. What's his name? From Egypt.
Yeah, that guy that's in Egypt.
So that guy
What's his name?
I had almost like two stage interview with him and then both reviewing his because he did a presentation with them. The first presentation he brought was instead of PowerPoint, it was Power Word instead of PowerPoint. I told him, guy, this cannot fly. Go back. I edited his PowerPoint like almost like 4 times before we came to something that was, and for himself, he was happy with himself. So,
Yes, the guy is
like,
still
what
talking
I say here
about
is
it
like,
till
you have all
tomorrow.
it takes. Try to work on some of these small things we've mentioned, and then you see that even yourself will be much happier with your presentation and then your outing with them. So,
Yeah,
because if we stay here today, we'll stay here till maybe in the next 3 hours, we will not end because there are a lot of things to talk about.
yeah. Onyebuchi is still happy about it till tomorrow. He always talks about it. He say, "Oh, Prince really suffered me, but I'm very happy. But anyway, anytime he's talking about, it, he say, oh, yeah, you really stressed him. The stress you gave him, but thank God today is he not the one in Egypt now enjoying monthly stipend and free accommodation and everything? So
At some
uh,
point, he wanted to leave. Oh,
at
I
some
told him,
point,
no, at some point, he wanted to leave and say he want to start applying. I said, guy, get this master's first. It will be it will be a big stepping stone for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even
yeah.
if you want to come to the US, if you have masters, you can come here and apply EB2 and then get your green card before graduating. So I
Mhm.
was like, I try as much as possible. And then for there, you must publish in Q1 or Q2 journal before you graduate.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a big plus for him.
Yeah.
So it's most of them will understand the impact and what it means. So like I know this guy now, Aneto. Like I said, you have a very big back. Like see, that your background is very solid,
That's a very
and
strong background.
I like the fact that you also understand some of the things you've been doing.
Yes.
Like you have understanding of them. So you are not naive. You are there. All you just little touch up and then try to answer these questions the way we responded to them, so that you can have more. Like some of those questions we made about saying this thing is not existing. No, those are just most like I understand the joy. Like you want to say, oh, this thing does not exist, but technically, you can still tell someone that you've not seen this, maybe probably because of where you are. So, but you are like you have a very good background. You did excellently well. I will tell you the truth. Like you did well.
Yeah.
So try to work on the feedbacks, and you'll be
And
good.
the guy is a first class material. So I mean, he's
Mhm.
Okay.
good. He's
It's
good.
obvious.
So I mean, that's you are good to go. I see there is another person here, Emmanuel Nwigwe. He's also I think he's one of our selectees. I mean, for this year's this thing. Emmanuel. So I believe most of them, Emmanuel, you are here. I believe you must have
Yes.
learned something. We try to invite some of them to join these kind of sessions, even if they don't have interviews, because we know that they will definitely get to that stage one day.
Mhm.
So everything is stage by stage. So Emmanuel, do you have any question for us? I mean, because we are calling it a day now. If not,
Oh, no, I don't have any questions from my end. I've just been listening and it has been really cool.
okay, okay. How is your application going? I mean, is there any progress? Is there any apart from yours? Is there any other school you are working on? Because we've advised you guys to kind of look for other schools.
Yeah, I think this US thing just held me wrongly. I was applying to US schools. I applied to at least two of them with fee waivers. But when I wanted to now use the EduAfric fee waiver, then Trump now said what he said. So I had to pause, and then I also faced Commonwealth Shared as well. I applied to at least five schools in the UK, and currently I'm going to be applying to Erasmus and then this Egypt as well. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this Egypt is a very, yeah. I told Pascal to let them prepare for that. We are going to hold that in next week. I think it should be next weekend. That Egypt
Yes.
it has a whole package. It has, even they are paying the flight tickets. Even this guy was even telling me that even the accommodation is free. Where he's
So
living now is free.
accommodation is free,
Yeah.
like everything, like internet. Like he doesn't spend on only even the food. He said like
He's
what they pay them, like they are living large. Just that
yeah.
it's not just that the salary is not like if you're trying to do what's it called exchange rate, but at least as a student you are comfortable. Like your
Mm-hmm.
medical insurance is covered, everything is covered, internet, all what you might call it. So
Just carry your bag
for me,
and enter free flight and come and start
as
studying.
in
So, when Onyebuchi last year got I think he got funding in some of the universities here. He went to interview and then US denied him visa, but then Egypt gave him this visa. So I told him, come on, just accept Egypt, go on and leave US. Let's see what happens. And now he's very happy that he's there. So next weekend we will hold that. He will explain to you guys. So most of you should start the application now because I think the application deadline should be sometime early February, I think. So you guys should start the application now, but don't submit until you attend that webinar so that he will tell you guys the, you know, it's always good to hear from the horse's mouth. And also, I need to also try to also apply for that. We are advising you guys now to look elsewhere so
Yes,
that
sir. Yes, sir. I've applied to. I also applied to six Erasmus and three Erasmus and six Commonwealth.
yes, yes, you guys should keep on looking at those places. Um, I mean, we are hoping that this thing that the announcement that was, we are hoping that something will, this one that Nigeria is playing, trying to kind of meet up with some of their demands. So hopeful, let's just be hopeful that things will change tomorrow. I mean, they can wake up any morning, any moment and remove the ban, and then we'll go back to where we were. But for now, we can't just sit back and be looking. So something has to be going on. So I encourage you guys. You guys should keep on struggling. Your dreams are valid, and
Valid.
you will definitely get there. All of us, we are here. We were there in the past, but thank God we are here today. So you guys will definitely be here one day, and also you will also be in the position to be. We will be inviting you to Edu Africa to interview others. So life na turn by turn. Yeah. All right. I
Yes,
think
sir.
Pastor is
Thank
also Pastor. How far now? Pastor, waiting they saw for your side.
I do, bro. Good evening.
Yeah.
But so good evening, everybody. Yeah.
Good evening.
you.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good evening. I just the background they listen.
Yeah. 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 Thank you so much, Pascal. You're a great guy. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone,
Okay,
for your
thank you, sir.
active
Thank you
participation.
for the time. I really appreciate it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank
Sorry,
you.
just before we go, Mrs. Stan and everyone else, I don't know if this is any useful, if we've used it, but it's just sticky notes. They can
Uh-huh.
help with Mr. Stanley. It seems you know this.
I know it. I know it.
Yeah,
Um,
so
in our course, my master's course, we don't write classroom exam like during exams. There's nothing
yeah,
like sit down and you're writing. Lecturer is looking at you up and down. No,
yeah.
you write paper and you present. You
All
write
right.
paper and you present. So there's always a final paper in each course.
Okay.
So whenever we will do a PowerPoint, you will submit the main paper you should write up. They will tell you to write between 20 to 40 pages. And then you now do a PowerPoint. On the final day, you do
Yeah.
a PowerPoint and you present. So during the PowerPoint, that's our savior. That thing you're holding is our
Flashcards. Yeah. So
savior.
you can just Aneto, you can just have them major questions that you would normally expect, just have them with little notes and put them somewhere that you can maybe on a wall in front of you that you can always refer to just in case they come. They can be really useful, but of course, whatever we tell you here, do it whatever you will. But we wish you the very
I
best.
will. Thank you,
Yeah.
man. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I wish you good luck, and we are looking forward to meeting you, I think, next weekend. That event is supposed to be on Saturday, but while we were on this call, this guy informed me that it will be on Sunday, that he got a mail from the supervisor. They have a field work they're going to do on that Saturday, which will take him more. He may not be able to meet up with that 7 p.m. So we will give you guys updates. It should be we are I don't he now said Friday or Sunday. So we're going to have it on Sunday. I mean, it's not going to be on Saturday again. So we'll have an updated flyer before the end of today or tomorrow. So Sunday next week we will meet to hear from him about that. But you guys can start the application process and leave everything. Then after then, you can now make any corrections from what you've learned from him and submit your application. All right.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. You're welcome. And have a blessed week ahead.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, man.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Everyone.